You're listening to NFT 365, the first daily podcast on NFTs with your host, Fanzo.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode, a special episode, or maybe every episode here on NFT 365 is special. But, I think for me, we just have to jump into this right out of the gate. And I know for many of you that are listening to this podcast, because you've been amazing and you've been reaching out to me, a lot of you feel like, hey, you feel like you're jumping in late, or you feel like, you're just starting to get your feet wet, or you're wondering if it's too late, or are you an early adopter? And, I think the premise of this, and I mentioned this in a past episode, the fact that there's like less than 4 million people currently that own an NFT, you are definitely not late to the game. But I want to respect that feeling. And I also want to respect the feeling of overwhelm and the feeling of, what does this all mean? And so today's a special day because it was exactly 6 months ago today that I kind of stepped in and said, all right, this is going to be more to me than just a collection, or I'm gonna really test what I've been learning, test out kind of this entire methodology. And I will say it's been a journey since, and I want to kind of take you guys through that journey a little bit, just so you can kind of feel kind of what I've felt and over the last 6 months. And if you're getting in today, if you haven't bought your first NFT, I'm gonna give you a little bit of like some of the mistakes I made, some of the things that I think about, but more so than anything else, I just want to take you through the journey, right? And the context, which I've shared throughout this podcast, is that I've always been an early adopter in technology. As far back as I had one of the original BlackBerries that was an international BlackBerry for my company. And I remember like my first trip to Korea that I arrived there, and I remember like the BlackBerry kept having all these alarms go off because there wasn't any people that actually taken the international BlackBerry actually internationally yet, right? And so and that was circa 2006, I think, 2007, 2006 probably. And so for me, kind of being on the bleeding edge of technology is always where I've enjoyed, and I've enjoyed pushing the envelope. But I will say what has been really different in this case is that not only is it being on the front edge, but there's also kind of this shift in like the financial responsibility, the financial aspects that are kind of involved, but it also kind of shifts some of the risk and the reward in this space. And so for me, I remember it was around this time last year where I started to go into some of the NFT rooms on Clubhouse. And I remember even doing what most people are doing, right? Typing in like WTF are NFTs. And then when someone tells you it's a non-fungible token, you're like, am I an idiot? They're like, what the hell does non-fungible mean? And it's just a weird word. And you type it in, you're like, okay, I kind of guess, sort of, I understand what a non-fungible token is. Like, maybe. But then the more you kind of open the door, you're like, oh, like you need cryptocurrency. And then they're talking about having an exchange and having a wallet. And I will tell you, about when the conversation got to there a year ago, I was like, I'm not really interested in this space. No thanks. I don't really want to deal with crypto, and I understand, Bitcoin, and I understood, like for me, the blockchain was always something that was important. But then you kind of fast forward, I launched our ADHD coin here on Rally, which I know so many of you listeners I've jumped over to ADHDcoin.com and have checked out your own coin. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. Of course, supports the show. That's also kind of how I'm being able to fund buying an NFT every single day for a year, which is part of this project as well. And we got a good one today, by the way. We got a really good one. It's the Honey Collection, and it's actually the creator of the one we minted today was actually launched her first collection back in March of last year, and is one of the, if not the first female PFP collection that was ever launched into the NFT space. And it was a smaller collection that was launched in March. And then today she dropped her first 10,000 piece collection, and we included that in our project. So I'll make sure there's a link to that in the show notes. But the reason I say all that is because, I had the coin in March, and in March and April, I started to dabble more into crypto and into understanding this arena. And that's when I got my wallet, my first wallet. Actually I had a Coinbase wallet for some cryptocurrency stuff, but I got my first MetaMask wallet. and I created my OpenSea account. I believe I created it actually on April Fool's Day, which I guess time will tell if who was the fool or not, because I got on April Fool's Day of last year. And then, for me, part of it was like, okay, I'm going to pay attention to what's going on, but it was still kind of, I was doing a lot of virtual keynote presentations at the time. I do a lot of content creation for brands that, they pay me to do some influencer work. So I was doing that. And I remember, I kind of stumbled across what would become my first NFT, but wasn't really my gateway into NFTs. And what it was actually a tweet. And I remember, the tweet was about like, hey, we're going to use NFTs to send care packages to Afghanistan. And I remember being like, wow, I love that concept. Like, it's such a cool concept. And they were like, you can send buy the NFT on this site. We're going to send a care package for every NFT that was sold. And I remember I couldn't get my MetaMask to work, right? It was like the website wasn't working or whatever was happening. So I opened up my wallet, which was my Coinbase wallet. And I ended up being able to purchase the NFT using the Coinbase wallet. And I will tell you, it made me feel good. I remember tweeting it out, and then I forgot about it for the next many months. That NFT to be, for example. And so for me, like, yes, that was actually my first NFT, which is kind of funny from a standpoint of like for me, it was more of like, oh, it was like a way to track donations. And I thought it was cool that like I could actually see where my money was going, that I was donating via this NFT for care packages, for those soldiers in Afghanistan. But, over the next, I would say month or so, the end of the summer, July, I started to really get some traction with our coin. And our coin, I started educating people on what the value was and the fact that there was utility underneath it. And that's really where I started really dialing into this idea of NFTs. And I was doing research, but I will tell you, like, the idea that I need to spend $300 plus like $80 or $100 on this thing called gas, to me just sounded a little bit like ridiculous. I was like, you know what? I'm not really going to play in this arena. That just seems like a lot of money right now. And money for me, like I'm not one that's like investing in the stock market, also, investing that amount of money into something. And I wanted to learn more. And I remember it was the last 2 weeks of July of last year. And I read everything I could have. I went into every Twitter account. I remember I started creating a Twitter list for all of those that had a Bored Ape in their profile photo. And at the time, Bored Apes weren't like popular, but I remember seeing them there. And when I would see a CryptoPunk, I'd be like, oh, that's someone I want to follow. And I started putting them into these Twitter lists. And it was actually 6 months ago today. My good buddy, Gary Henderson, so Gary, who was on the podcast, he texted me. He's like, Fanzo, have you actually bought an NFT like that's like a PFP one yet? I was like, no. He's like, come on a Clubhouse room. I'm going to send you one. And so it was actually August 3rd. I just pulled it up right now because everything is tracked on the blockchain. At 9:02 p.m. So August 3rd, 9:02 p.m. He sent me what would be turned into my very first PFP collection, which was called a Blazed Cat. So the Blazed Cat was the name of the project, the Blazed Cats. And he, the one he sent me ended up being, it had a pink body with like a black and yellow hat. And he's holding like a joint in one hand and a lighter in another hand. And I remember being like, oh, great. Now I'm just going to like broadcast to the world that I, am a pothead or I smoke weed and we were kind of laughing about that, like as like a narrative. And then I like kind of dove into the project a little bit. And I remember it was probably like an hour later that I was like, you know what? I'm going to transfer some of this, crypto that I have in a different wallet over my MetaMask and make my very first purchase. And so it was that same night, exactly 6 months ago, that I made a purchase of another Blazed Cat. And I ended up buying a second one. And for me, like it wasn't about jumping into a Discord. I didn't really understand the community component of it. The Discords that I was in at that time, I didn't really like. I thought Discord was annoying and overwhelming. And so most of you might know what that feeling is like. And for me, that was like, okay, I got this NFT. I made it my profile photo, and I was like, this is cool. I was like, hey, I'm in this space. And then I had a couple of people ask me like, Brian, why do you have that as your profile photo? And, some people would, and I would be like, oh, it's an NFT. And they're like, well, but what does it do for you? Like, why do you have it? And just for context, back then it was 0.035 is what the NFT was purchased for. I believe it minted at like 0.01, which was like way cheaper than most NFTs today. So even back then, to me, like the barrier to entry was interesting. And they were like, I would get the question like, Brian, like, you paid that much for a JPEG? Or they would be like, well, what are you getting holding it? Like, what's the value? And I was like, well, they have 10,000 of them, and they're, it's a really neat collection of all these different ones. And there are people that are like-minded, and they're donating to mental health, right? Like, that was the thing that I remember, that was a big piece of it, right? And I will say 100% of the profits went to Mental Health America. And so although the project never really took off, and I would argue, which is still kind of surprising because it has some really cool tech underneath of it, that I can actually change the metadata on this NFT dynamically. And so I can add things on there without even having to do any Photoshop or anything. And there's also some other aspects of this project that I think are really, cool. And I think the people that actually launched this original project, they actually are no longer around in the space. It ended up getting, bought up by another project. But the fact that, there was this concept of 100% donations in mental health, which of course, as someone that has ADHD and dyslexia, is something that's really close to my heart. I'm also a massive, mental health advocate. And, I also like the project ended up being bought on by, someone that was after this. And so, I ended up buying that second NFT, and then I was like, okay, I got this NFT. But then I was kind of like, when I kept getting questions from people about it, I didn't feel like I could actually defend the reason that I spent money on this. And I remember removing it from my my profile photo, almost like a little bit of shame, because I was like, you know what, I don't really know enough about this space, and I can't even really defend why I like the project. Like, I couldn't even really wrap my head around it. And then the project said, hey, we're going to airdrop you, which would end up being called the OX heads. And for every Blazed Cat that you own up to this date, you're going to get an airdrop. And that was my very first airdrop. And I remember that being like, oh, okay. And that was what actually got me into the Discord. And I started playing around the Discord, and I was like, you know what? I need a third, because I want 3 of these ox heads. But funny enough, I didn't even know what the airdrop meant. And I didn't even really know, well, is this going to be something that's a second NFT? Well, how does this all work? And I know for many I share that because a lot of these concepts we talk about as if they're like, oh, that's the reason you want to buy this, or that's the value add. But if you've never experienced the concept, you don't really even understand it, other than the fact that we're telling you it's important. And so I say that because I was right there with you. And I remember being excited because I was like, I'm going to get 3 more NFTs for the 3 that I own, because these were the only 3 I own at the time. And then that day, as I was kind of searching around it, I actually found another NFT project, and they said it's a free mint, and it was called the Glitch project. And I was like, oh, sweet, it's a free NFT project. I would love to have a free NFT project. I think that's a great idea. So I remember I went on the website, and I had to charge me gas. And I remember I had just enough money in my wallet for gas. And so I bought this NFT, and the art revealed, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I remember going in OpenSea and playing around. And then that same day, or around that same day, the Ox Heads dropped, right, which is this free airdrop. And so all of a sudden I went from gifted, I bought a charity NFT. I was gifted my first NFT. I bought my first NFT. I bought a third of that collection, and now I have a free one. And all of a sudden now I'm going to get 3 more NFTs into my collection. And I remember going to that website, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get my airdrop. And I clicked on the connect my wallet, and it's like, you are qualified for 3 of these NFTs. I was like, sweet. And I went to hit the button, and it's like, you have to pay gas for those 3 NFTs. And I believe the gas was $140 per NFT at the time. And I was like, well, wait a second. This isn't really free. I just got a free NFT that was my glitch NFT. But really, because I have 3 Blazed Cats NFTs, I have to pay gas. So really, this NFT is $100 or $100 more or plus. And the reason I say that is because it was also kind of an interesting journey for me, because I started to better understand some of the nuances in the space. And until you experience it, you are kind of out here, in your own. And I will say, during this time, I started to reach out to people that had NFT collections and say, hey, are you in a Discord? Or, hey, where can we chat about NFTs? Because I understood as an early adopter how important it was to have people around you that were also into this NFT space. And so that was kind of like my first, like kind of, I would say, jump into NFTs. The month of August was pretty wild for me, right? Because my coins started to take off. I started to jump into more Discords, started to track more mint projects. I didn't really buy any of them because I was like, I'm going to wait for like my project because I have to spend my money. And then I discovered this project. It was called CryptoDads. And I was like, well, I'm a dad. And the art had like this really cool, like kind of cartoonish, back to like the Nintendo MTV days. And I remember, like the day was, it was going to roll out was September 10th. And I remember counting down to like the mint day. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be an awesome project. And I believe at the time, like the mint price was like 0.08, I believe. And I had moved over some crypto, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll buy 2 of these of CryptoDads because I was like, now that I'm getting into this, I'm getting all excited. And I say that because like, if you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't bought your first NFT or haven't found like the first project that like quote unquote speaks to you, remember this conversation because you're gonna have that, and there's like this excitement, and there's this like. It's like, okay, now I'm going to open up a new door for like a new possibility. And I remember I waited to the countdown of the day for the project, and my daughters were here, and we were having some conversation around some things. And I was like, oh yeah, it's time for me to jump on and mint that NFT. And I jumped on the website, and I was going through, and I was like, okay, do I want to buy 1 or 2? And I remember I clicked on 2, and then I realized, wow, that's a lot of gas. So maybe I'll buy 1 and see how much gas it pays. And I was thinking about it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to buy 1. Clicked on that 1, hit confirm, and I went to hit the buy price, and the price changed, and it said it's going to be $12,900. And I was like, what? How did that all change? So I hit reject like as fast as I could, and I like jumped on the Twitter. I'm like, what's going on? And I jumped back to the website, and it said sold out. So the collection sold out, and it sold out pretty quickly. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, well, now what do I do? And I remember going on Twitter, and I was mad. I was like, you know what? Your gas fees made my transaction fail. And then I went to do it again, and I couldn't do it. I was like, this sucks. Like I was excited for this project. And a couple of people were tweeting, well, it's like, hey, you can still pick one up on the secondary market. And I was like, I don't even really know what that even means. Like secondary market. Like I want like I want the one on the website. Well, I remember going to the OpenSea there for CryptoDads, and I was like, "Ooh, all the art is actually here, right?" Because like up until then, I didn't really understand generative art, right? I really wasn't understanding that whole process, and like and so like a lot of things that I was tracking in August, and times were a little bit different than that right back then, right? There was no whitelists, there was no pre-sale. There was no really like concept of waiting a week for the art to reveal. A lot of the things we're seeing now. And so then I looked on the website, and I'm like, oh, look at the different art. And then I found it. And I remember looking at the NFT and was like, that is mine. It was a bald guy with a beard, but that's not really why it was mine. It was because he was wearing a purple jersey with the yellow numbers 24 on it. And as most of you know, not only am I a proud girl dad, but I am my pride as being loud about being a girl dad was really amplified thanks to Kobe Bryant and Kobe Bryant's like love for being a dad, and his death, his unfortunate death really rocked my world, and it was like one of those things where it's like, oh my goodness, it's combining like all of my loves. Like this is technology, this is community with dads, but it's also allowed me like to like represent as a girl dad. And then when I looked at the price, I was like, oh my goodness, it is 0.225 Ethereum. And I remember being like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can afford that. Like, I don't know if I want to spend that much money, because at the time, Ethereum was about $3,200. And so the price of the NFT was about $590. And the nice part about it was the gas fee at the time, the gas was really low when I was looking at it. And so the gas ended up being only like $53 or so. So it ended up being like a $650 purchase. And for those that don't know me, I love spending money on travel and on my daughters, and not even really technology gear. Like I like having new gear, but I've been very blessed that I get a lot of my gear for free, based on my influence. So like when I spend money, I like to go out to eat. I like to travel. And I drive a 2011 Jeep Wrangler, right? I don't have a luxury car. I'm not one that likes to buy a lot of clothing, or, I like to spend money on going to watch Steeler games or traveling to new cities or going on cruises. And so for me, this was a big purchase. And I was like, well, Brian, and this is me talking to Brian. I was like, you know what? You were going to buy 2 anyhow. And if this is the NFT that is going to be your forever NFT, which I will tell you, I remember saying those words to myself. I didn't even really know what that meant. And what people mean when they say like, this is going to be your forever PFP is like that profile photo speaks to you so much that it really doesn't matter what happens to the collection. It's yours. And I remember like talking myself into it, and I ended up pulling the trigger and buying my CryptoDad. The neat part about this story is I still own that original Blazed Cat. I still own my CryptoDad. I've actually never once thought about putting my CryptoDad up so that it would be for sale. I have posted it with like a sale price before, but I posted it for like 9.3 ETH, right? Like 93 is my number. Anyone that goes to my wallet, you'll notice if something's listed at 9.3 ETH, that's like my way of saying, I love this project and I love this piece of art, but if you pay me 9.3 ETH, it can be yours and I'll find a way to reinvest in the project. And I don't love it so much that I would pass up on 9.3 Ethereum. But for the most part, no one's going to buy it that far over the price. And I remember that day and the next day jumping in their Discord, and I probably spent 6 hours in the CryptoDad Discord the next day, super excited about this NFT that I bought. And then I remember it was like the next day I had to give a virtual event, and the following day I had to do this, a project. And so then I came back like 3 days later, and I realized there was all these like new people in there, and there was these dad groups, and there was different like a mental health conversation. There was dads that like sports and dads that play poker, and I really just started to connect with people that were in that group and community. And then, I made it my profile photo on Twitter, and all of a sudden I got all these new followers, and people were amplifying things. And then, someone was telling me around that same time was like, have you sold an NFT yet? I was like, no. And they're like, well, send me your wallet. I'll let you look at, I'll take a look at what you have. And I was like, hey, here's my wallet. And he was like, oh, I love that like glitch one because it's a pretty rare NFT. And I will tell you, like, this is, and I'm saying this because I like to keep things real. At the time, I understood that the properties that were making up the NFT, that was my glitch NFT, I was like, oh, there's only like 0.03% of people have this headband on this NFT. But I didn't realize like that people valued that, right? Even the rarity sites in August and September were really bad. They weren't really updated very often. I remember checking them out and it was kind of confusing. And I act like this is like years ago, right? This is only 5 months ago, 5 months ago, I guess. And I remember going, oh, you know what? I probably could sell this NFT, this free NFT that I got. And I remember being like, what am I going to put it up for sale? Like, I don't even know how much I'm going to put up for sale for. And I clicked on some buttons, clicked around on OpenSea, and then I started doing research. And I probably spent 3 hours that evening going through all the properties, seeing how people listed it, seeing which ones sold, checking the activity thread. And I realized that there was there was only one headband one listed. And it was listed for like 0.9 ETH. And then I had noticed that the day before, one had actually sold for 0.3 ETH, one of the headband ones. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put mine up for sale for 0.48 Ethereum, which I was like, if I get $1,500 off of this free NFT, like my mind is going to be blown. It wasn't even an hour later that NFT was bought. And that ended up being the first NFT I ever sold for a profit. And it sold for a pretty big profit. One of the bigger profits that if you think about it, because I paid gas, which I think was $89. And I sold it for what I think ended up coming out to about $1,400. And it was a free mint. Well, all of a sudden now I have 0.48 Ethereum in my wallet. And I was like, you know what? I got to buy some more projects. I need to jump into some more things. And I think what all of us do is like, I FOMO'd into a project because someone in the Discord talked about it. I jumped into another project because I heard someone was, told me that was a good project. And then I remember thinking like, well, I want to have like diversity in my wallet. I want to pick like different things. And I was like, you know what? I want to support an artist. So I remember looking on Twitter and someone posted about a project called the Secret Superlative Society. And it was this really neat art that had a pink background, which of course I love because pink's one of my favorite colors. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump in and buy one of these because it's more art, it's less like cartoon, and it's supporting an artist. And so I ended up buying that with like my profits of that sale from the glitch. Now I will tell you, we fast forward all these months later, the other projects that I kind of FOMO'd into, a couple of them are still in my wallet. They're worth nothing. A couple of them, like the projects disappeared. But the cool part of that story is that, that first one that I sold, I remember selling it a couple months later, a month later, for over 1 ETH. And I was like, oh my goodness, I sold it too early. But then I realized, well, I got this secret superlative NFT that was like my art that I really loved. And I had tried like a couple of different versions of different NFT projects. I found like this Blockheads one, which was like kind of like an MTV throwback. I remember this Bad Kid NFTs where that was like the first project that I bought more than one of, which was like 3 or 4 of. But I say all of that because I got the art one and I kind of felt like, you know what? I got like 4 NFTs that I really like. I got one that's my profile photo, which is my CryptoDad. I really want to dive into these smart contracts and the communities and the networks. And I would say for the next month, I was spending every waking minute. I didn't watch Netflix, I don't believe, which is I'm not a big fan of telling people not to binge watch TV or not. Like, I think you need to have a mental escape in today's world. I think it's good to be able to like separate ourselves from these different worlds. And I think it's good that, we need to explore different things. But, I have this like collection now, and I will say the beauty of that and the beauty of that whole piece of it was it kind of opened my mind to this like whole world. And I was researching and I was checking things out. And then there's one other project that I really wanted to kind of bring light to is that, I jumped into a Twitter space, and because I was in that Twitter space, they gave out a POAP, and that POAP was a Time Magazine POAP that actually gave me a free NFT, a Time Magazine NFT, which I thought was really cool. And it's called the Time Magazine Cats, which of course I still have as well. And that same day I heard about this idea of a raffle where this massively hyped project, all of the friends that I had in the space were jumping in and putting their name into this raffle. And the name of the project was the Mekaverse. And those that don't know the background on that, it was this massively hyped project. You had to get lucky. There was over 200,000 people in the Discord. Most of them were actually real people, unlike a lot of Discords today. But they were randomly drawing the people that were eligible for the 8,888 NFTs to buy. And it was a fairly pricey mint price. And I ended up being the only one. Like I was in a Twitter DM group with about 45 people. And, my friend Jaffe, who I've mentioned on here, Jeremiah, lots of my buddies were in that group. And I was the only one of the entire group that won the raffle. And I remember this was this was my biggest NFT purchase. And I ended up buying that NFT, and the art reveal was delayed. And the hype started to really build around this project. And I remember, I think I ended up paying, I don't remember exactly what I paid for the NFT itself, but all of a sudden the floor price went to 1 ETH. Then it went to 2 ETH. And then it went to 3 ETH. And then one morning I woke up and it was 5 ETH. Now, I played poker, and I'm a big fan of managing expectations and defining success. And so this was before we get the art. Now, the thought process was, if you get one of those super rare ones, you're going to be able to sell that for $100,000 or more. But even the ones that aren't super rare, you're probably going to be able to sell that one for a decent amount as well. And I got an offer the night before the reveal for 8.6 Ethereum. Now, when I bought this NFT, the thing that I committed to myself was, you know what, I'm going to hold it through the new year no matter what, because it's going to be a learning experience for me. It's going to be worth more money than what I could sell it for. But I will tell you, 8.6 Ethereum, when I saw that offer in my OpenSea, I kept going back to it what could I buy with 8.6? But then I thought about it and said, okay, wait, Brian, when you jumped in on this raffle, what was the reason that you did it? Was because you wanted to be a part of this community, check out this massively hyped project, learn things about the NFT space, and also have that chance of hitting a home run or a grand slam and hitting a very rare version of the NFT. And I really like the art, right? So there's a lot of things going for me. Well, the price started to dip before the art reveal because they had some art reveal problems, which ended up being a trend for that whole month. And then there was some drama about who got what NFTs, and they admitted that they had given some of the NFTs to their friends and family. Well, all of a sudden the price dropped to about 5 ETH. The art reveals And before I know it, the price was down to about 3 Ethereum at the time. And I remember right then, all the people that around me were like, sell it, man, jump out of that now, take that profit. And at that moment, I was like, no, I'm not going to jump out of it now, because if I didn't sell it at 8.6 because I wanted to hold on to it through the new year and I wanted to learn the lessons and understand the community and I believe in second chances, I'm going to hold on to this through the new year. I'm going to stick to my guns. Well, over the next month or so, the price dropped and it dropped below 1 ETH. And I believe it dropped as far as down as 0.48 Ethereum. And the reason I tell you this story was because it was also kind of that first experience I had of questioning myself and then looking at that NFT and being like, man, I missed out. I should have sold it when I did. But at the same time, I was active in their Discord. I loved learning about the founders, and they were getting a lot of hate because not only because they hate every one of these NFT projects have issues, but if you think about it, if you put 250,000 people into a Discord and only 8,800 of them are able to actually mint to get access to buy the NFT, you have about 240,000 people that are pissed off. And so the tone of that Discord was so negative for so long. And they did such a great job of kind of rebuilding it. And they talking about all the things that they were going to roll out with the money that they made from the NFTs. And I actually still hold it to this day. I actually listed it just before we started recording this episode. I listed the NFT right now. I believe I have it listed for 2.4 Ethereum, which could be easily looked at as a loss. But I say this because I've learned lots of things on this NFT journey over the last 6 months. And one of them is managing my expectations, is understanding why I'm getting in these different games, but also recognizing that it's very weird to take something that, I paid, $800 for. And if I sold it for the 2.4 Ethereum today, right, I would be making $4,800, right? So my total profit would be about $4,000. Only in the NFT space could selling something for a $4,000 profit make you feel bad or make you feel guilty or make you feel a little distraught or disappointed. And so this journey has been wild. And if you would have told me when I got that first Blazed Cat that I would eventually start a daily podcast about NFTs, I would have told you were crazy. If you would have told me I was going to start a podcast about educating people on Web3, I would have said, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably where I was leaning. If you would have told me that the thing that's funding this project that you're buying an NFT every single day would be a creator coin, I would have said, I don't even understand that. What are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense. But not only has the NFT landscape changed, the world has changed, but I've also changed. The amount of hours I've dedicated to learning and listening and jumping into Twitter spaces and sharing my thoughts and reading articles and listening to other podcasts has allowed me to kind of double down on my understanding and knowledge. And then I started buying some NFTs for different strategies and different ways of approaching it. And then I will tell you the real critical time came around November 1st when I had decided, I'm going to go to NFT NYC. I'm going to go to that event in New York City. And most of you know the story about, what happened after there. But I messaged, the person I had just started working with, Drew, and said, hey, Drew, why don't we both go up to New York? We can learn more about NFTs together. And he's like, dude, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Now, context to that is October 1st, Drew and I kind of started working together, but we really didn't know each other. We had never met in person. And we were trying to figure out how this partnership was going to work as business, and me using his media company and him kind of taking over some of the responsibilities of my speaker agent. And I say all that because, the day before New York came, I was like, you know what, with COVID and it's over a weekend and I don't even know this guy, Drew, and I don't really know a lot of the people at the NFT space that I know there's going to be people that I'm going to like there. You know what? I'm probably not going to go. But a good friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, kind of challenged me, and she's like, Brian, you are all in on these NFTs. You're talking about them. If you really believe that this possibly is what you think it is, you need to go to New York no matter what. And you could say it's all history from there, and I'm very glad that I've been there. But it's also just such a fun thing to think back on, right? Because 6 months ago, I got that high of my first NFT, and then I bought my own NFT. And then I got a free NFT that I sold for a profit. Then I found like the project of my dreams and I missed out on the mint. So then I had to buy it on the secondary market. Oh yeah, somewhere in between there, I got rugged twice where I bought 2 NFTs that don't even exist because someone tweeted about them and I just went into OpenSea and typed in their names and I went to the project and I bought one. And then I bought a second one because I was like, you know what, that's a deal. And then people on the Twitter were like, this project's going to moon. This is an amazing project. So I went in and bought a third one. And it wasn't until then when someone's like, yeah, the floor price now is up to whatever it was, that I looked at the floor price on this one and was like, oh, wait a second. This floor price isn't moving, when I realized it wasn't even the right project that I was in. So for me, not only has this been a journey and been a heck of a ride, but it's also something that I share all of this because if you feel like you're too early or is this outside your depth, just know that it gets easier the more you commit to it. It's part of why I'm doing this podcast. If you've had any of those feelings where you don't understand the resale market, you're not alone. If you've wanted to get in a project because you loved it and you got your stuff, your Ethereum ready, and then Coinbase put a hold on your transfer and you missed it, you're not alone. If you've bought a project and it ended up being not even a great project or the project ended up disappearing, you're not alone. This space is always evolving. And I would argue that there's people that can get in this space right now and learn up to speed to where we're at today because there wasn't podcasts at the time. There was one podcast of the time that was dedicated to NFTs whenever I started, and it was not a very good podcast in my opinion. They weren't doing a lot of educating. It was more just like kind of talking about the news. But now we have lots of different podcasts that are out there, and there's lots of people that are in Twitter spaces that are talking about NFTs. At the time, there was maybe one Clubhouse room a night that was about NFTs. And so I say all of that and say, like, you're in the right spot. If you're listening to this podcast and this interests you and you understand that you want to dive in on the utility and all the different components that exist there, it's a fun space and it's a space that we can learn together. But it's also a space that you don't even know where it's going to take you. For me, the opportunities that I'm going to be speaking at events. I'm going to be going to ETH Denver in a couple of weeks to broadcast this podcast live there, work with another sponsor. The opportunities that NFTs are opening up for me, not just because of this podcast, but because that I've been committing myself to these NFT spaces and getting to know people that are in there, has really been life-changing. And so when I look back, I had all of those NFTs I mentioned to you, right? I mentioned the Blazed Cats. I mentioned to you, not the one I sold, of course, the CryptoDads and the Secret Superlative Society. And I mentioned, the Time Magazine one. I still own all of them. I have not sold any of them for a profit. And funny enough, I probably won't sell a lot of those because you know what? I've already got the ROI on those, the communities I've been open to, the lessons I've been able to learn. And in a way, they hold so much more value to me in my wallet, kind of like allowing me to be a part of this journey and documenting what I'm all about. And it's really allowed me to dive to like who I am as a creator. And of course, you guys know that our sponsor for the podcast is the Creator Economy Expo, which is CEX. And this is a perfect time. It's happening May 2nd in Phoenix, Arizona. I told you that my world changed by going to New York and just immersing myself with this community and realizing how powerful it was and how diverse it was and how many different opportunities I had in front of me. And I will also say that also opened a door for other things that were possible that I had no idea were going to be at my disposal. And so, if you have the opportunity to be in Phoenix, Arizona on May 2nd, the Creator Expo, definitely do that. I'll be there. You get to hang out. We'll get to be, meet each other. And you can get your own ticket at mint.cex.events. And if you use NFT 365, you get that code. It'll give you a discount of $200. And remember, if you want to check out, you can mint one of their limited edition passes that actually gets you VIP access for forever. But the way I want to close out this episode is that the concept of like VIP access, the idea of finding your people, the idea of joining a group that could unlock an opportunity that could change your life is really what this 6 months has meant to me. 6 months ago, I would have said, I don't have the capability. I'm neurodiverse. I could never do a daily podcast. I would have also said that I wouldn't be able to buy an NFT every day because I wouldn't know enough about the space, or I wouldn't have the budget to do it, or I wouldn't understand how to educate people on my Creator Coin. a lot of that self-talk could have easily prevented me from having the opportunity to talk to you each and every single day. It also could have prevented me from having the opportunity to change my business model, to open up new doors, to really explore opportunities that I believe are going to make me millions of dollars and open up opportunities for me to get on stages and remove the biases around mental health and ADHD in ways that I could only dream of. And so I share all of that because it's crazy to think it's only been 6 months. It feels like 2 years. But for all of those that are out there, you're not alone if you're new to the journey. You're not alone if you've been here for a while, but you haven't sold an NFT for a profit yet. And part of the beauty of this is we can learn together, we can grow together. And I truly do believe that it is about this rising tide lifts all ships. So thank you for coming on this journey with me, a little bit into like the journey that I've been on. You know, I now hold in my personal bag over 300 NFTs. We're buying an NFT every single day for this project. We now have 83 NFTs there. I've bought across, I think, 13 blockchains total. I have NFL NFTs. I have the Matrix NFTs. We have Ghostbusters. I have all of that. And 6 months ago, I was just sitting around with a Blazed Cat trying to figure out how I was going to defend spending this much money for some JPEG. I'm super glad that I did. And I'm super thankful for all of you coming along on this journey with us in the podcast. If you have the opportunity, you're loving this podcast, please leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're listening on Spotify, just scroll down and hit that 5-star review and give us that 5 stars. We really appreciate it. Until tomorrow, my friends, this journey is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on it with me. Cheers.